Presentation is going to be given by Alexandra Pelillo and Daniel Scharf, and same thing, unless you guys talk for an hour and 5 minutes, I think we're going to be fine on time and for questions and answers, so why don't we give them a big round of applause.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our presentation today. We're going to be talking about the peer advisors for writing program model. Again, my name is Alex Pelillo.
I'm Daniel Scharf.
And we work at Tokyo International University in Saitama in the Global Teaching Institute. We are known as Global Teaching Fellows, or GTFs, which is an acronym that we're going to be using a lot throughout the presentation.
We're going to be using a lot of acronyms today.
A lot. Sorry if it gets a bit confusing. So again, who are we? Why are we here? We're GTFs at TIU. GTFs are typically hired with a master's in TESOL or applied linguistics or a related field. So we primarily teach English language courses, but we also teach academic literacy courses.
By academic literacy, we mean academic writing, reading, research skills, critical thinking, and so on.
We are the two lead members of PAW. Daniel founded PAW along with our former colleague Vanessa Armand, and I joined 1 semester after it was implemented. And yeah, we'd like to tell you a little bit about our model and how it could be useful to you in a similar institution.
Yes. So first, some background. So our program our school has 2 programs. We have the Japanese students, but we're not really going to talk about that as much. We're mostly going to talk about the EMI program. EMI means English Medium Instruction, and that is all courses in the program taught in English. And that's content and not language. So our Japanese students that we teach, that's all in English, but this is for the international students who are studying their major in English. So some similar concerns that many programs have is a lot of times students are accepted with low English ability, which creates major problems when you have to read academic sources or write research papers in the second language. Many EMI programs in universities are implemented for the purpose of internationalizing, but no real long-term strategy or goals. We just listened to some presentations earlier today that were about these exact things. Many programs were created with little input from the stakeholders and educators and collaboration between educators. A lot of times it's just the university says, internationalize, have an EMI program, make it happen. And also one of the things that drives that is the government is telling universities you should do this. It's how universities can climb the ladder by being more internationalized.
Yeah, so now that we've talked about some of the challenges of that EMI programs face, we'd like to talk a little bit about our context. So we have an EMI program at our university, which is a 4-year mid-tier university in Saitama, Japan. Our student population is about 60% Japanese citizens, about 40% international students. I think very similar to the statistics mentioned here at Lakeland University this morning. So many students coming from different countries, which we'll touch on in a bit.
Our school offers many majors. Japanese students, there are many different majors. They do business economics, international relations, sports program, English, many others. EFL, that's what we teach mostly.
Yeah.
Business economics and international relations are the 2 majors through our EMI program. And then we have a Japanese language program for international students. Our EMI program is mostly international students. We have very few Japanese who join the program.
So again, today we're going to be focusing only on our E-track student population, which is the international students enrolled in the EMI program. As we mentioned, virtually all of them come from abroad. over 60 different countries actually. It is possible to have some Japanese students enrolled in EMI if they meet the requirements. So again, it's an EMI program at TIU, and they are pursuing degrees in those content courses that Daniel mentioned, business economics or international relations. Moving forward in this presentation, when we say content courses, we're referring to business economics, international relations, just to yeah, simplify it.
So, we also have academic literacy courses. This is similar to in a lot of Western universities. The first year you take academic composition, academic writing courses. So we have 3 academic courses, AC1, AC2, that's academic writing, and then an analytical reading and thinking, which is kind of a research critical thinking course that we have. We also used to have public speaking, and it's an elective now.
Of course, there's a lot of challenges that our university faces and the students also face in the EMI program. So in response to these challenges, the Global Teaching Institute at our university created something called academic advising, with the goal of supporting students a little bit more in their academic, in their studies. So this is essentially tutoring that the GTFs, like Daniel and I, work in to help all students. So it could be Japanese students, it could be international students. They come for one-on-one advising sessions for 15 minutes, and they can get help with academic English. They can get help with their research.
Their homework,
Yeah.
grammar worksheets, pronunciation,
Really
if
any-
they're Japanese students.
Really anything. they can come for.
So, there are challenges faced by the school. We mentioned earlier EMI challenges in general. We also experience a lot of those. With our international students, a lot of them come in with, well, they all come with varying degrees of English. And this creates problems. In their content courses, they're all put together in the same course. And some read the assignments very easily, and other ones have a hard time. In our courses, they're leveled according to ability, but still that means the lower sections, instead of just focusing on academic literacy, we also have to help with English. And they get less of the content. On top of that, there's a large variation in academic literacy that students come with. Some students, we have some international students who come from really top-tier international schools in Vietnam, and they know how to write research papers. And then we have American students from maybe a small local high school who don't know how to write an essay. And that creates more problems. E-Track students also only take 1 year of academic literacy courses.
And it often occurs at the same time that they're already taking content courses. So while they're reading a book and maybe writing a book review, they're also just for the first time learning how to write a 5-paragraph essay, for example.
And then support. Prior to our program, students only had academic advising. However, in academic advising, that also had problems, which we'll mention in the next slide, but also all the students would go to it. And so at the times when the international students would have a midterm coming up and they really need help, it could be filled with Japanese students asking for help with pronunciation or homework or something.
Right. So they couldn't always access the help that they needed. So in addition to the students' challenges, our institution, of course, faces its own challenges as well. One is experience. As we mentioned, the GTFs like us, we're hired to teach primarily English language courses. We have a master's in TESOL or applied linguistics, but many of us may not have any experience before coming to TIU with teaching academic literacy. So that's one challenge.
We also created all of the curricula in-house. And because of that, we also watch the curricula and develop it, and so it's changing constantly. And some teachers might not be able to keep up with it. If one teacher taught academic AC1 one semester and the next 2 semesters later is teaching ART, they might not know what's different now about AC1.
Right. Furthermore, training is a big challenge. We all have a lot of classroom experience, but of course, classroom instruction is different than working one-on-one as an advisor or a tutor. So they may not feel prepared to guide students through a one-on-one session. On top of that, when we arrive, we don't receive any training on how to guide these sessions. Furthermore, we're all operating typically on 2-year contracts here at TIU in Japan. So teachers are coming and leaving every 2 years. So when teachers gain some kind of expertise in academic literacy, they often are replaced soon after with a new teacher.
And after a certain period of time, after 6 years, we have to leave.
Yes.
And so the people who created the programs won't be there after a period of time.
We also often rely on former GTFs like us to kind of informally train incoming GTFs. There's no real system for that. And as we mentioned, a challenge with EMI programs is that there's often little communication between other departments. This is true of our school as well.
One thing that's different with ours, something was mentioned in the other presentations, is that usually in universities there's no communication. We at least have one meeting once a year between the content faculty and us.
Which was only recently started and initiated by our department.
Yes.
So we're trying to kind of bridge the gap a little bit.
Yeah, it's now we are actively working on trying to communicate with them. Unfortunately, it's difficult because they are higher ranking in the university than us, and we aren't technically allowed to contact them.
Without going through a more formal channel,
Yeah.
So, in response to the challenges faced by students, in response to the challenges faced by the institution, and students not being able to get all the help that they need through academic advising, the Peer Advisors for Writing program was created and implemented in spring 2017, using our international students as a resource.
So, what is the PAW program? Peer Advisors of Writing, or PAW, is a peer writing center only for E-Track students. We provide an alternative for academic advising. It's similar. We do the 15-minute sessions, but it's only focused on skills on writing for their classes. Now, this can be for their content courses or their academic literacy courses. We chose the term advising specifically for a reason. We don't want to have tutoring, direct editing of papers. Instead, we use more Socratic style of asking questions and leading the student to correcting and editing their own papers so that they become better writers overall. At the same time, we do teach a little bit of direct, when to be direct. Because there are times when Socratic method fails and the student says, I don't know.
Especially if it's something that has a concrete answer, like an APA citation or something, then we may ask them to, use a little more direct language.
Yeah.
So who can be a peer advisor for writing, a PAW? PAWs are E-Track students, so international students coming from other countries that are in the EMI program. They have to have completed all the academic literacy courses. So those 3 courses you saw before, they will have to finish them all with a grade of 90% or higher, and a teacher recommendation in the final course, which is Academic Composition 2. in which they're writing a research paper.
paper.
So these are some of our PAWs, it's not all of them, but this year we have PAWs from Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and from Sweden.
So, training. The PAWs receive 8 hours of pre-service training and then hour-long bi-weekly in-service training. They're trained, as I mentioned earlier, it's the indirect, except when you need to be direct. But the training covers everything from the mindset of how to be a tutor to some direct things with APA citations or research methods.
And one thing that I forgot to mention in the previous slide is this is actually a paid job. So our students are getting paid to do this, and they're also getting paid for the ongoing training that they receive.
Oh, yes, we'll talk about that. Characteristics of our program.
So what is unique about this program? Of course, we've heard of writing centers before, right? So how is this one different? We have international students assisting other international students. They're not education majors, they're not English majors, and they're not master's students. They're just students enrolled in bachelor's programs in business economics and international relations. So they're students just like the students that they're assisting. Go ahead.
Our students are from diverse linguistic backgrounds. This is the first semester that we've had students who are near native speakers. But high English proficiency was a requirement, not native proficiency.
Absolutely.
They also do self-directed learning through projects, which we call projects, because we like puns. These projects are everything from API citation guides to how to look for grammatical errors in your paper. These materials, we keep them in the advising area and
on our website as
and
well,
on our
which
website.
we'll hopefully show you at the end,
Yeah.
if we can.
We forgot to put it on the slides. We
Yeah, these projects are used in the advising area, but also used by us as well in the classroom. So I just the other day spent 10 minutes reviewing again all the possible projects that they could use to help themselves create their outline for their essay, for example.
and then on top of that, we use critical reflection, where they reflect on all of their advising sessions. They also reflect, if they didn't have a student come, that's when they use they make their projects. We have them reflect on that, how they looked in the background, research for it,
Right.
and then try to see trends in their experience, and then learn from it. If something went well, how can we do that again? If something went poorly, let's think about that.
What can we do differently? Yeah.
And this is because we want them to learn from their experiences, but also because we can't teach them all the time. We're not a full-time class. We're meeting 1 hour a week.
Right, and we also can't observe them every session either, so it's one way for us to also kind of understand what they're doing during their sessions, what kind of students are coming, and what they're coming to get help with.
We also won this year. We won the Mary Finocchio Award. Finicchio Award for Excellence in Non-Published Pedagogical Materials through TESOL. We were very lucky and happy about that.
So this is for the training material.
For the training manual.
That this pause, the advisors are taught to refer to in basically any situation that may arise during an advising.
And in the training materials, we have all of the scope of everything that we cover.
So what are some of the advantages to using PAW? As we mentioned, we have academic advising with GTFs. You know, why go to PAW instead of getting help from a teacher? So there are some advantages. One, as we mentioned, this is a job, and the hiring process is highly competitive. as we mentioned, they have to have a 90% or higher. It's teacher recommendation. They submit a writing sample to us. They go through an interview process. So when students choose to go to PAW, they feel confident that they're getting help from students who have already done this before and have done it well. On top of that, they receive training. As we mentioned, we have masters and we have a lot of classroom experience, but we do not receive training on leading advising sessions, but these students do.
And it's training for all stages of writing, so research stage, outlining, brainstorming, different formats for essays, all the way down to editing or doing the citations.
Right. Also, the PAWs, as we mentioned, are not native speakers of English. We have the luxury of being able to work in our first language every day. So these students, for some of them, English is their second, third, or even fourth language. So when students go to PAW, they know that they're getting help from a student who understands their situation. They know what it's like to go to class and work every day in a language that isn't their L1.
PAWs also have experience taking the academic literacy courses. As a teacher of the course, I know some of the problems that students may have, but the PAWs know all of the problems. They've experienced it firsthand, or their friends have complained about it. And that's not something that we get. And so PAWs are in a unique position to help solve these problems.
Yeah, they have that first-hand experience having taken the courses.
So, reception.
So the reaction has been very positive up until now. Student reactions, we've been gathering post-session feedback. So after every session, a student will fill out a quick feedback form to let us know how it went.
Then post-semester feedback as well. At
Right.
the end of each semester, we hunt down all of the track students and ask them to take a survey.
Right, which they usually fill out through their academic literacy course. And the feedback that we've gotten so far has been overwhelmingly positive, if not exclusively positive, and also from teachers as well. And both the content teachers and the GTFs have both been encouraging students to use PAW and have mentioned how useful it has been to their students.
Our numbers also show it. Percentages were cut off, but I can read those out. So we started in spring 2017 with only 126 15-minute slots. And that was with 3 PAWs. Only 47 of them were filled. The next semester, we hired more PAWs and thought, let's try again. Out of that, 96 out of 209. Then the next semester, 107 out of 219. Okay, not much more. The following semester, 166 out of 216. PAW exploded. Slow start, but really big. The numbers, on the other hand, the percentages. So 37% of the slots were filled here, 46 here, 51 here, 77 last semester, and this semester we're on track to we have more PAWs.
Right, we were offering about maybe 30 or 40% more slots even this semester, and we kind of anticipate to hit that 77% mark or higher even at this rate from the data that we've collected thus far. So, and we should also mention, that applications to work for PAW has also doubled in the last semester. So the word's really getting out, and a lot of people are becoming interested in not just attending PAW, but also working as a PAW.
When we started the first time, we tried to recruit from students. We said we're hiring, and we had enough room for 3, and we had 5 applicants. So we chose 3 out of the 5. The following semester it was like 6. 6 or 7, and then last semester was 12.
And we could only take 3, so the acceptance rate's way more competitive.
Sorry, could I ask a
Yeah.
question?
Oh, sure.
Sorry. So you have the number of slots like in total, but I was wondering like, if it was in like 1 week, how many slots do you have?
Each semester it depends on the availability of our students because we have to work around their class schedule. But generally, I would say maybe 6 1-hour slots a week.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Each
45.
45.
They work about an hour each.
We work, and so we don't want to make them work when they're not being paid.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we schedule them for an hour, but they tutor for 45 minutes, and then that 15 minutes is for reflection
And to wrap up their project
Yeah.
or whatever.
So the pause availability is like posted somewhere in advance, and the student who want to go
Yes,
Yes.
make
and
reservation.
if we can access the internet, we can show you on the website
Okay.
exactly how that's done, which is kind of taken care of also by our department, but another member who works in the tech committee. So we can show that,
Yeah.
if hopefully. Yeah.
It's pause usually work 3 hours a week. And so when we had 4 pause, it was about 12 hours a week, maybe less. And then now it's a lot more. So, how can this help you? Other EMI programs may face similar challenges. They might face different challenges. You can use our approach to overcome these. Our model is use what you have, not what others have done. When we started PAW, we looked at writing centers in the US, ones that we've worked at before coming to TIU, everything we could find, and nothing was really our context. Nothing really worked. So we decided, let's create something that does work for our context.
Right, we have so many great students.
Yeah.
So why not use them?
So there's no need to rely on native speaker tutors, English major tutors, writing tutors, education major tutors. You don't have to have long training courses. You don't have to only grad students. If you spend the time to set up the program, do the training, you can use any students that have the will and the drive and who are the good students. The ones that really strive.
Have demonstrated competence in their field. Yeah.
So finally, use what you have. Students are your biggest asset.
Yeah. So, if there are any more questions, or comments, or even suggestions, we'd love to hear them.
I was just wondering, this clearly, it's not a non-negligible amount of money to set up the program, and I assume you have space, and it took part of your time. How did you initially convince the university? Or was it your idea, or was it the university's idea?
That was a bit of both. One of the we were lucky. One of the directors of our department tried to set up a program years ago, but he didn't really have the time to really set things up, and so it kind of fell apart. But he really loved the idea, and so he was the one who pushed for us. The assistant director is really the in to creating this. The other thing is the way our program is set up. We all have committee roles that we have to work in, and some of the committees aren't really that big, but other ones, if you want to do something, if you bring forward the evidence that it's needed, they'll go for it.
Yeah, to answer your question about space, that's kind of also part of the model, like use what you have. We don't really have a lot of space. We don't have although we say it's a writing center, it's not a physical
We have
center.
a room where we do academic advising. It's about the size of this
Yeah.
room.
We set up little signs that just say this is
Paw.
peer advisors for writing. So even in this room, I don't know about the library because it's supposed to be quiet, but a place like this, you could even use the space, yeah.
But I think that's actually good.
So you had no way of knowing this when you prepared this presentation, but in your audience was a writing tutor.
Oh, great. Wow, that's great.
And you said we're supposed to be quiet here in the library, but actually one of the places where we do tutoring is right on the other side.
Oh, well, there you
That
go.
bookshelf.
Yeah. Right, so it's not necessarily, I mean, we would love to have a physical space as a writing center.
And we might, when they
Build the new campus.
build the new campus that they're building,
In
but
Ikebukuro. But for now, we use what you have, and we just use the space that we have downstairs in the basement, so.
yeah. As for the time that we put into it, we created our committee to create the PAW program. So technically, it's supposed to be an hour and a half work a week. We put in 20 hours a week, more, but
We're in a good place now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
We can give you the
Do you think we could try to access the
Yeah.
internet? We can just pull it up.